You have no idea how I'll get my revenge in the end. I didn't scream. I didn't smash plates. I didn't tear my hair out. You know what I did when I found out my wife was cheating on me? I bought her flowers. And she accepted them, smiled, even kissed me on the cheek. Now listen closely. Everything I did after that wasn't love. It was architecture. The architecture of revenge. Every smile, every breakfast in bed, every "I love you," it was all groundwork for her collapse. And it all began with a little box. A regular-looking package with no return address. I found it on our porch one Wednesday morning. Crumpled paper, custom stamped from Athens, Greece. Addressed to my wife. Strange, since we'd never been to Greece. And definitely hadn't ordered anything from there. I brought it into the kitchen, set it on the table, and called Laura. When she saw the box, she went pale. "What's that?" she muttered. "A gift from Olympus," I said with a grin. "Maybe Aphrodite herself decided to thank you." She tried to smile, but it was the smile of someone who just died inside. She sat down, opened the package, and pulled out a small, hand-carved wooden figure, a Greek goddess. It looked expensive. Beside it was a note. She read it in a flash and crushed it in her fist before I could see. What did it say? Nothing. Just a promo. "Junk," she mumbled. I nodded, quietly brewed her coffee. But at that moment, I knew. That box wasn't just a souvenir. It was a signature. Not for me, for her. Laura was cheating. I already knew. She thought she hid it well, the late meetings, the new friends, the gym sessions she came home from looking flawless and untouched. I knew, but I didn't let it show. Because I had a plan. Not just to catch her. Not just to win. To leave scars. Deep ones. I started being kinder. Softer. The perfect husband. And inside, I was mapping her downfall. Slowly. Without yelling. Without lawyers. Without drama. That night, she laughed at some sitcom, sipping wine with her leg resting on my lap. Calm in her eyes. Confidence in her power. She thought she had me on a leash. That I was nobody. But I already had the rope in my hand. I didn't check her phone. Didn't hire a PI. No bugs or spyware. I moved quietly. Precisely. I memorized her daily rhythms. You know, cheating has a pattern. It needs timing, repetition, coordination. I learned that rhythm to the millisecond. And each day, I added a new piece to the trap: finances, connections, work, friends, even her family. She had no idea that her perfect life was already crumbling. And it all started with a package. That was her signature. And my response would be the final chapter in her story. And trust me, you have no idea how I'll get my revenge in the end. They say the devil is in the details. I say the devil is in the routine. It's the repetition, the predictability, the quiet arrogance of someone who thinks they're not being watched. That's where betrayal lives, in the places they stop pretending because they think they've already won. And Laura had stopped pretending. After that package arrived, her behavior didn't change immediately. No panic. No withdrawal. If anything, she got more relaxed. More confident. She thought the storm had passed. That her lie about an old online order was enough to keep me distracted. That I was still the same gullible husband who once believed she just fell asleep at Sarah's house after a wine night. She had no idea I had changed. I wasn't angry. Not anymore. Anger is hot, volatile, loud. I was something else now, cold, focused, deliberate. A man with a plan. The first thing I did was stop reacting. I watched. Every morning, she left for work at exactly 8:10. Not 8 o'clock. Not 8:15. Always 8:10. I'd hear the click of her heels on the pavement, the mechanical sound of the car door, the ignition, and then the same smooth backing out of our driveway. It was a rhythm, a song on repeat. But then I noticed something. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, she left wearing different shoes. Low heels instead of high. Her makeup was lighter. Her perfume stronger. The scent stayed in the hallway longer, expensive, floral, and unfamiliar. She wasn't going to work those mornings. She was going to see him. I didn't need a tracker. I didn't need to follow her. I could read the signs in her wardrobe better than any GPS. She was clever, I'll give her that. She never brought anything home. No gifts, no marks, no receipts. But she overlooked the human part, the rhythm of excitement. The way she hummed while brushing her hair. The little skip in her step on those mornings. The silence when she returned. There was guilt, but not the kind that leads to confession. Hers was the kind that numbs you into believing you're untouchable. So I started making a map. Not a physical one, a mental one. A chart of her lies, behaviors, expressions. Who she spoke to. when her energy dipped, when it rose, her cycle of avoidance and affection, her peak of guilt and her dip into apathy. I tracked it all, and I started manipulating it. I'd bring her favorite dessert home on days I knew she'd been with him, just to watch her face contort between joy and nausea. I'd compliment her perfume, knowing exactly whose bed she'd come from. And the best part? I never acted suspicious. Not once. Because suspicion gives power. But calmness? Calmness is terrifying. One evening, she came home with a headache. That was her code word for, leave me alone. I handed her a glass of wine, kissed her forehead, and told her I'd clean up the kitchen. She sat on the couch, closed her eyes, and let herself drift. And I walked into our bedroom and opened her laptop. I didn't check emails. I didn't care for messages. What I wanted was her browsing history. Not for cheating, but for dreaming. I wanted to know what she wanted, what she was planning, what she thought her future would look like without me in it. And what I found confirmed everything. She'd been looking at apartments. Solo apartments. Studios with big windows, minimalist decor, cozy balconies. She wasn't just cheating. She was planning to leave me. That was my confirmation. And I smiled. Because now the rules had changed. I wasn't just dealing with a liar. I was dealing with an architect of abandonment. So I became an architect too. The first piece I moved was financial. We had joint accounts, retirement plans, investment portfolios. She'd never paid much attention to any of it. I always managed our money. So I started shifting things. Subtly, quietly, not stealing, just separating. My name alone on new savings accounts. My own private card. Transferring automatic payments to my account. It was all legal, all clean, all invisible, until it wouldn't be. Next, I turned to our social circle. Her best friend Jessica? The one who always called me too quiet? I ran into her at the grocery store. I told her, casually, that Laura had been feeling distant, that I was worried, that I hoped it wasn't because of someone new. Jessica's eyes twitched. She knew, and now I knew she knew. I didn't confront her. I thanked her for her concern and walked away. Let the guilt spread. Let the cracks widen. Let them all think I was still blind. But I saw everything now, and every move I made from here on out would be with one purpose. To build a trap so perfect, she wouldn't even realize she was inside it until the door closed. Every liar leaves behind echoes. They think they're whispering secrets, but really, they're screaming in patterns. And once you hear the rhythm, you can predict their next breath. That's where I was now. I wasn't just observing Laura anymore. I was predicting her, reading her like an unfinished book whose ending I was already rewriting. But I needed more than information. I needed leverage. So I started planting seeds, not just in her life, but in the lives of the people around her. Not obvious sabotage. Nothing that could be traced. Just confusion. Doubt. I wanted everyone in her circle to start questioning what they thought they knew about Laura. Take her sister, Megan. They used to talk every Sunday evening. Long calls, wine in hand, catching up on gossip and nonsense. But one weekend, I called Megan first. I told her, in my most sincere voice, that I was worried. That Laura seemed withdrawn. That she was under a lot of stress at work. That she cried in the bathroom sometimes when she thought I couldn't hear her. All lies. But Megan didn't question me. She started calling Laura midweek. At work. At inconvenient times. Asking strange questions. Innocent things like, are you feeling okay? Or, why didn't you mention anything about that project you're stressed about? Laura's confusion grew. So did her irritation. The cracks were spreading. I smiled more. I also started being more involved in things I had never touched before, like her friend group's little events. I asked to join a double date with her friend Chelsea and her boyfriend. I offered to host a game night at our house. I even signed up for a local charity walk Laura used to do alone. Every time, she looked at me with a kind of startled disbelief. Like I was evolving, becoming someone unfamiliar. And she didn't like it. Because unfamiliar meant unpredictable. I knew that's what scared her the most. You see, cheaters need control. They need to keep you boxed in, playing your part, blind and static. But the moment you change, even slightly, they panic. Because they don't know what you'll do next. And I was changing every day. Meanwhile, I was collecting her weaknesses like rare coins. Her passwords? Easy. She never changed them. I didn't use them, but I logged them. Her work schedule? I made a copy of it from her planner when she wasn't looking. Her credit card statements? She never checked them, but I did. That's how I found it. One charge. A hotel. Tuesday morning. The timestamp? 9:47 a.m. That wasn't breakfast with a client. That wasn't yoga. That wasn't early shopping. That was him. And I didn't get angry. I didn't break down. I simply printed the statement and folded it neatly into an envelope. I placed it inside her favorite book, the one she never actually read but always displayed on the coffee table. It was a test. Would she find it? Would she confess? She didn't. Weeks passed. The envelope remained untouched. So I escalated. One night, while she was in the shower, I went to her phone and turned off the lock screen. Not to spy, but to let her think I was spying. The next day, she added a new password. She was scared. And that was the beginning of my fun. Because fear makes people sloppy. She started double-checking every message, hiding her phone under her pillow, jumping when I entered a room, avoiding eye contact when we ate. I played the loving husband through it all. One morning, I brought her breakfast in bed, pancakes, fruit, fresh orange juice. She looked at me like I was a stranger. Everything okay? I asked softly. Yeah. Why? No reason, I said, smiling. You just look distant lately. She froze, blinked. I'm just tired. Of me. I said it gently, like a joke. But she didn't laugh. She just stared at the juice. That's when I knew. I was in her head. And once you're in their head, you own them. My next move was slow, delicate. I began quietly reconnecting with people she had pushed out of my life over the years, old friends, distant relatives, coworkers. People who once warned me about her and whom she convinced me to ignore. I reached out. Coffee chats, casual texts, short calls. They welcomed me back without questions. And I listened. Oh, the things they told me. Turns out, Laura had a history. A pattern. There had been others before him. Different cities. Different names. Different excuses. I was just the one who stayed the longest. That made me feel nothing. Not anger. Not heartbreak. Just resolve. Because now I knew what I was dealing with. Not a broken heart, but a career manipulator. A woman who rehearsed lies like a monologue. And I was rewriting the script. Every day, the pieces moved closer into place. Quiet shifts. Strategic pauses. Controlled chaos. I wasn't just planning revenge anymore. I was living it. And she had no idea. It's funny how silence becomes your loudest weapon when you know the truth. Laura still thought she held the upper hand. She still walked through the house with that same confident sway, texting in corners, smiling at her phone, and occasionally flashing me a manufactured tenderness, as if I couldn't feel how hollow it had become. But now, every step she took was inside a maze I had built. She just didn't know it yet. See, the thing about revenge is, it doesn't work if it's emotional. Not real revenge. Real revenge is patient. It's surgical. It lets them get comfortable, dig themselves deeper, and only then, do you show them what they never saw coming. And Laura? She was still digging. I had begun feeding her small wins, letting her think she was slipping things past me. Like when she forgot her scarf at work and rushed out at 10 p.m. Or when she told me her boss asked her to stay late, and I simply smiled and said, of course, take your time. Each lie she told me, I let live. I nurtured it. I wanted her to think I was losing interest, that I had grown passive, that I was drifting away, just as she needed me to. Why? Because the moment she felt truly safe, she would finally show her real hand. She would finally try to leave me. And when she did, everything would come down at once. I started preparing that moment like a chess master lining up his checkmate. Let's start with the finances. I moved most of our joint funds into a private account. Not enough to raise flags, just a little each week. I closed a credit card we rarely used and opened a new one in my name alone. Then I started keeping physical cash in a private lockbox. She never noticed. She didn't want to notice. I also began pulling my name from things. Quietly, subtly. I stopped using our joint email, changed the forwarding address on bank statements, called our insurance company, and split the auto policy under the guise of streamlining bills. Every move I made was wrapped in routine and reason. She asked nothing. And socially? Oh, the seeds I'd planted had grown beautifully. Jessica, her friend who once knew everything, had grown strangely quiet around her. Not cold, just hesitant, like she was waiting for something. Megan, her sister, had invited me for coffee without Laura for the third time in a month. Even Chelsea, the friend who once called me boring, had messaged me privately asking if Laura was okay. People were starting to see through her. Not because I told them anything, but because I made sure they looked. The performance cracks on its own when the lights stay on long enough. Meanwhile, I crafted something special. A video. Nothing invasive. No hidden cameras. No secret recordings. Just a collage. Pictures. Dates. Overlapping calendars. Hotel charges. Phone records. Text logs, not even hers. Just the timestamps and frequency patterns. I laid them all out in a visual timeline. All perfectly legal. All completely damning. I didn't plan to show it to her. I planned to show it to everyone else when the time came. The goal wasn't to ruin her reputation. It was to make her answer for once in her life. Then came the final stage, isolation. I stopped initiating affection. No more, I love you in passing. No casual touches. No morning coffee ready for her. I let her feel the air shift, but not with anger, with indifference. And that, more than anything, unnerved her. She'd say, "You're so quiet lately," and I'd smile and reply, "Just thinking." She'd ask, "Is everything okay between us?" And I'd say, "Why wouldn't it be?" She began overcompensating. More makeup. Sudden gifts. Suggesting date nights. Trying to reclaim the version of me that was already gone. It was like watching a performer desperately trying to get a forgotten audience to clap. And I clapped, all right. Politely. Calmly. Because I knew the curtains were about to fall. She was planning her exit. I found it on her computer. An email thread with a leasing agent. She was asking about move-in dates. Prices. Pets allowed. She wasn't even hiding it anymore. And why would she? She thought she had played this game to perfection. She thought I would be devastated, maybe angry, but ultimately defeated, left picking up the pieces like some broken man. But she had no idea what was coming. No clue that when she walked out the door, I would already have rewritten everything behind her. You see, I didn't just want to watch her leave. I wanted her to realize, too late, that she had been the one who got played. That every smug little lie, every calculated excuse, every silent betrayal had all been allowed. Given space, given time, given rope. And soon, she'd see just how tightly that rope could pull. There's a special kind of silence that happens before a storm. Not the calm kind, the sharp one. The kind that hums in your ears like pressure dropping. You know something's coming. You can feel it in the base of your neck. That was the silence in our house the week she tried to leave. I didn't confront her. I didn't stop her. I just waited. Because I had already seen the emails. The lease agreement sitting half-filled in her drafts. The bookmarked furniture websites. The digital vision board of a life without me. She even had a new Wi-Fi name picked out for her future apartment. Fresh Start 2025. The irony nearly made me laugh. She wasn't running from pain. She was running toward fantasy. And I was about to pull the plug. The morning it started, she was dressed nicer than usual. A soft blouse, subtle makeup, the kind of half-casual look you wear when you want to look good, but not like you tried too hard. She smiled across the breakfast table, sipping coffee I hadn't made. "I might be late tonight," she said lightly. "Don't wait up." I nodded, pretending not to care. "Take your time." And off she went, thinking that I was still fooled, still foggy-headed, still in love. What she didn't know was that by the time she came home, nothing about her life would be the same. The first domino was the car. We only had one in both our names, but it was paid off. And while she was at her little appointment, I went to the DMV and submitted the transfer of ownership to my name only. Quietly. Legally. With every document already prepared. The second domino, the apartment she thought she'd rent. While she was out, I called the agent pretending to be her partner. I politely asked him to cancel the lease. "We've reconsidered," I said. "Not a good time for a move." I followed it up with an email from an address she had forgotten was linked to her name, one I had created years ago for family photos. Lease, canceled. Deposit, gone. She'd find out later. But not yet. I returned home and did the final sweep. Photos of us? Gone. Her favorite wine glasses? Packed. The handwritten note she once gave me for our anniversary, the one where she called me her safe place? I left that on her pillow. I wanted her to see it last. Then I waited. At exactly 7:23 p.m., I heard her car in the driveway. I was sitting on the couch, reading a book I wasn't actually reading. She walked in like nothing was wrong, not knowing the floor beneath her was about to give way. "Hey," she said casually. "Long day." I replied, without looking up. She hesitated. That was new. "Everything okay?" I closed the book gently and looked at her. "Yeah," I said. "Actually, everything's clearer than it's ever been." Something flickered in her eyes. Not fear. Not guilt. Confusion. "Good. Can we talk?" I asked, standing slowly. Sure." She sat down like she was walking into a job interview she didn't prepare for. I handed her a manila envelope. The same one I had filled with the timeline, the receipts, the photos, the hotel stays, the quiet evidence. She opened it, scanned it, went pale. Her hands trembled slightly, then stiffened. She started. You don't have to, I interrupted. I'm not here to scream, or cry, or beg for truth you've already buried. She looked down. I know you were planning to leave. I know about the apartment. I know about him. Silence. I just wanted you to see what you look like from the outside. She stared at the papers again. Quiet. Paralyzed. I've taken care of everything, I added calmly. The car's in my name. The joint accounts are closed. Your lease is gone. Now the fear arrived. Her mouth opened slightly, then closed again. You'll be fine, I said with a faint smile. You're always fine, aren't you? You'll spin a story. You'll land on your feet. Then I gestured to the bag I had packed for her, just a small duffel with essentials. Clothes. Charger. Toothbrush. Her real stuff was already boxed. Where are my things? She asked, her voice cracking. Gone, I said softly. Shipped to your sister's. I figured you'd run there first. She stared at me like I'd become a stranger. But I wasn't a stranger. I was the man she thought she could outsmart. The man who'd smiled through her lies. Who played the fool long enough to watch the queen fall. You always told me I was predictable, I said, walking past her. You were right. I paused at the door. But so were you. And then I left her sitting there, surrounded by the remnants of a plan she thought was hers. You see, she never imagined I could be 2 steps ahead. She never imagined I'd let her build the gallows with her own hands. And now? Now the real story begins. I expected her to leave that night. To grab the bag I had packed and disappear into the darkness. Maybe drive to her sister's, maybe straight to his place, the man she thought she could fall into like a net. But she didn't. She stayed. She sat on the edge of the bed for an hour, motionless, like a statue carved from denial. Then, slowly, she lay down fully clothed and closed her eyes. Maybe she hoped I'd come in. Maybe she thought there was still a version of me who'd cradle her and pretend none of this was real. But I didn't even glance back. I slept on the couch that night, not out of anger, but because I needed the quiet. I needed space. I needed to feel what it was like to reclaim air that was mine again. When I woke the next morning, she was still there. And so it began, the days of uncomfortable coexistence. No more questions. No more affection. Just 2 people orbiting the ruins of something that used to look like love. But here's the thing. I wasn't just waiting for her to leave anymore. I was studying, observing how shame transformed her, how fear crept in, slow and sharp. She walked differently now, lighter, quieter, as if afraid of making too much noise, drawing too much attention to her presence. She stopped playing music in the kitchen. Her phone stayed face down on the counter. She began wearing long sleeves even when it was warm. Guilt has its own kind of dress code. I didn't say a word. I let the silence wrap tighter each day, like a rope around truth. Because silence, real, heavy silence, it's not passive. It's a mirror. And in that silence, she was forced to watch herself. On the 3rd day, she tried to talk. Can we fix this? She asked, voice barely audible. I looked at her, not with rage, not with tears, but with that terrifying calm that only truth can bring. There's nothing to fix, I said. There's only what you chose. And what I learned from it. She blinked, stunned by how gentle it sounded. That's what made it more powerful. You see, people expect anger. They expect to be shouted at, blamed, cursed. They know how to play defense against fury. But against a man who smiles and walks away? That's a language betrayal doesn't know how to translate. I started going out more. I reconnected with people I had ignored, not because of her, but because of who I had become trying to keep us alive. I took long walks, long drives. I found my journal again. I read books I had shelved for years. And slowly, the fog lifted. One evening, I came home to find her cooking something elaborate, the smell of garlic and butter in the air, music playing faintly. She looked up and smiled. Thought we could eat together. I nodded, sat, and ate. But I said nothing. Because what do you say to someone building a meal on top of a grave? After dinner, she tried again. I messed up. I know that. But I want to fix it. I want to rebuild. I placed my fork down and met her eyes. Are you sorry for what you did? I asked. Yes, she said quickly. Or are you sorry you got caught? That one hit. I saw it in her chest, a breath that caught midair, a heartbeat skipped. I didn't mean for it to go this far, she whispered. No one ever does, I replied. And that was it. I didn't explode. I didn't throw plates. I didn't storm out. Because revenge wasn't about punishment anymore. It was about clarity. It was about showing her that I no longer needed to convince her of anything, that I had already won the moment I stopped needing her love to feel valuable. I began planning my move. Not hers. Mine. I found a new place, light-filled, small, peaceful. Just mine. I bought furniture without asking anyone's opinion. I packed slowly, deliberately. Every item I chose to take carried intention. Every item I left behind was part of the goodbye. She noticed. She asked where I was going. I said, forward. She asked if I would ever forgive her. I said, I already have. But forgiveness isn't the same as return. And for the first time, she understood. Because the loudest goodbye is the one without drama. The kind you feel in your bones because no one's shouting. They're just done. She cried that night. I heard it through the walls. But I didn't go to her. Because my story had turned a page. And it wasn't about her anymore. You ever stand in an empty room and realize it's finally yours? Not just the space, but the silence, the light, the choices. Everything. Yours. That was the feeling when I unlocked the door to my new place. No shared toothbrushes. No carefully curated photo walls. No memories clinging to furniture like ghosts of what used to be. Just me. And the start of something real. I wish I could say it was easy, walking away from everything I spent years trying to hold together. But the truth is, walking away wasn't the hard part. It was staying gone that tested me. Because even after the clean cut, after the goodbye and the packing and the move, the echo of her lingered. In my sleep. In my routines. In the way I'd glance at my phone expecting a message, then remembering I'd blocked her. It's strange how betrayal doesn't just end a chapter. It stains the pages before it. And I had to relearn how to live without flinching. But here's the beautiful twist. The more space I gave myself, the more I started to return to me. I took a class, photography. Something I always wanted to try but never made time for. Turns out I had an eye for it. Not just for composition, but for capturing the truth. The little details that most people miss. The honesty and stillness. People started noticing. A friend of a friend offered to showcase a few of my pieces in a local gallery. At first, I laughed. Then I realized, why not? I went. I stood there, surrounded by strangers admiring the way I saw the world. And for the first time in a long time, I felt proud of something that had nothing to do with survival. It was creation, expression, freedom. But here's where it gets strange again, because life has a way of circling back when you least expect it. One morning, I got a letter. An actual letter. No return address. The handwriting was familiar. I hesitated before opening it. Inside, 3 sentences. I saw your photos. You're better without me. I'm sorry. No name. No plea. Just an admission. And you know what? I didn't feel satisfaction. I didn't feel anger. I felt peace. Because I wasn't waiting for an apology anymore. That chapter had closed so thoroughly that even her attempt at redemption didn't land. It was just background noise to a life I was finally composing by my own hand. I started volunteering at a youth center, teaching photography to kids who didn't even own cameras. We used old phones, broken lenses, anything we could find. They didn't need perfection. They needed to see. And so did I. Each kid reminded me that clarity isn't something we wait for. It's something we build. Frame by frame. Honest and shaky and beautiful. One night, while packing up gear, one of the boys looked at me and asked, "Mister, how do you know when you're happy again?" I paused. Not because I didn't know the answer, but because I knew it now. I knelt beside him and said, "When you stop looking back hoping it'll make sense, and start looking forward knowing you'll build something better." He smiled like he understood. And I smiled because I finally did too. I don't miss her. I miss who I was before I gave everything to someone who didn't deserve it. But that version of me? He's coming back. Only stronger. Wiser. Unshakable. And if you think this story ends with peace, think again, because the final move I made? It was a message. Not one made of words, but of success.